Hello, siblings of the light. This is an unorthodox episode of Gnostic Revival. But as many of you probably already know by now, my computer is completely on the fritz. And I've been talking about this for some time now, about how my computer's been acting odd and things of that nature. And it's mostly to do because of the fact that it's about 6 years old and is running completely out of storage. And, man, since this is my first time of content creation, I wasn't really aware of the difficulties that one would have in storage. Go figure. Because, we don't have an infinite amount of storage ability in these, in our computers and other technology and things of that nature. And so, I'm not giving up though. I am going to continue this ministry, but it's going to be a little bit different. So, Wednesdays, I'll definitely still be posting. But the issue will be the Friday Hangouts and the Sunday service. Those are going to have to be on hold for a while. As for the 20-minute or less Gnosis clips, those are going to have to wait as well. I'm not sure how long these videos are going to be. They're probably going to be somewhere around 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20. But I want to try to keep it short. Today I didn't really have anything planned. This is kind of like out of the whim type of thing. And these definitely aren't going to be polished or organized in any way because I don't have my editing equipment and things of that nature. So just bear with me as I get through all this. And, one day I'll get another computer and I'll definitely have storage handled. And we'll get through this, And that kind of brings me to today's subject. What does it look like when a Gnostic is going through it? How do we use our Gnostic knowledge and Gnostic philosophy to get through hard times? And that's something that I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to use one of the more obscure books of Gnosticism to really highlight this subject. Because one thing you will notice is that in Gnostic text, it's not really like the canonical Gospels, right? Where you have a lot of philosophy about everyday life, and you have philosophical quotes by Jesus and the apostles. Although you have things like the Gospel of Philip and the Gospel of Thomas, and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, but these don't really get into a hopeful message. As I've talked about before on the channel, the canonical Gospels are more of an exoteric take on the Christian tradition, while the Gnostic Gospels and Gnostic texts are an esoteric take on the Christian tradition. So we have to keep those things in mind. But does that mean that we can't find any form of hope or philosophical truth that will help us in our daily life? I say that we can. And I think it's more about reading between the lines and developing a philosophical structure from these texts and what they say. That brings me to the text that I want to get into, which is Thunder Perfect Mind. But here I'm going to flip the camera and you're probably going to see the computer screen and how everything is. Oh yeah, I forgot. It doesn't do that. Well, like I said, we're on a cell phone right now and it doesn't like to flip the screen in the middle of the video. So I'm just going to have to flip it myself and show y'all what I'm talking about. So as far as the computer goes, here is this. This is the issue that I'm having where I'm running out of storage. And trust me, I've tried to delete as many and uninstall as many apps and things of that nature without making the computer completely break. And then as you see here, I have completely cleaned these out as much as I possibly can. Most of everything that I had on my computer really is on a flash drive now, except for the folder that I have for Gnostic Revival. And the reason that is because I just don't have the storage unit for Gnostic Revival. Not even, I don't even have the money for a cloud right now. And that's really the big issue that I'm having, is the funds to get the storage, the funds to, get a new computer and things of that nature. And this is part of the reason why I've been asking for money on the channel. I knew that something was going to come along and it was going to be hard to continue with this ministry and service. But with that said, let us get into the subject at hand. And here we have the Gnostic Bible. If you don't have one of these, you really should get one. It has just about every Gnostic text that they've translated well, and across different traditions of Gnosticism, because as I've said plenty of times, Gnosticism is not a monolith. It is a combination of traditions that the early Orthodoxy thought as heretical. And so here we have the Gnostic text, Thunder, Perfect Mind. And this specific Gnostic Bible, they just call it Thunder. But many know it colloquially as as Thunder, Perfect Mind. So here I will take the quote from Thunder, Perfect Mind, and I'll read it now. And I'll get into how I extract hopeful message from this. And it says, I am the first and last. I am the honored and scorned. I am the whore and the holy. I am the wife and the virgin. I am the mother and the daughter. I am the members of my mother and the barren one with many sons. I have had a grand wedding and have not found a husband. I am a midwife and do not give birth. I am the solace of my labor pains. I am the bride and groom, and my husband produced me. First of all, that's just weird in the first place, right? Thunder Perfect Mind is really perfect for this because, it's already paradoxical from the beginning. Thunder Perfect Mind is one of those texts that make you go, what the heck? What are they talking about? And for me, when it comes to speaking on the idea of getting through hard times, one idea that I get from it is the fact that we have to be chameleons of life. Life is going to call us to do many different things because of the fact that, life is dynamic. You have these archons over you. You have a series of spirits that are also trying to either help you or harm you. And then you have a whole slew of humanity that has its own will and its own thoughts and things of that nature. So we're not dealing with just, what we want in this life, right? We have the dynamics of other people wanting other things for themselves and us even. And so in that way, Thunder Perfect Mind really highlights the fact that we have to be, loosey-goosey. We have to be like rubber. We have to be like water and flow with things. Another thing that Thunder Perfect Mind really highlights for me as well is that within the dynamics of life, we have to understand that we have a higher calling. We have things that we have to understand and overcome, right? So as Gnostics, we recognize the light, and we recognize that we have to go within ourselves and find the truth. We have to seek the kingdom and, go through the process of theosis. And through theosis, with theosis, like, one of the hardest things that people tend to have a hard time with is the idea that, oh, I don't have enough time to meditate, or, oh, I don't have enough time to do this, that, or the other. Well, the thing is that you have to work at that. You have to make time. It's not that you don't have time, it's just that you're not putting time towards it. You might be really into Pokemon Go. And instead of doing Pokemon Go, like making it a hobby, maybe it's something you do once a week for maybe 30 minutes, and that's it. And then the rest of the time, you would be working towards having your reunion with God, trying to come into theosis and having a direct experience with God. Also, with the paradoxicalness of life, is that we have to make money, right? We have to make money some way, somehow. And, that comes into alignment with what's going on with the mystical order of the Nazarene and the church. And, like, what I'm facing here with my computer. Of course, like, I have, my own things that I do. And I have bills to pay and things like that. So, of course, I have no extra money to go into buying a new computer and things of that nature. Also, with that said, my husband just lost his job, and so all those extra funds that could be going towards other things, like, just aren't there. And so that makes life a little bit harder. This is a part of the paradox of life. But the fact of the matter is that we have to overcome these things. Like, here I am on a cell phone preaching to y'all and communicating to y'all a Gnostic message. This is my way of overcoming my limitations. We all have to overcome these things one way or another. Even if, life is deciding to knock us down a little and making it a little bit harder for us to do the thing that we're trying to do. But the fact of the matter is, if you truly believe in God, if you truly believe that what you're doing comes from God, and that your message and your mission is from God, then you're going to do it no matter what. If you truly believe these things. But that's the issue, right? Do you really believe? Can you really set aside your ego and not worry about what people are going to think about you and think about how this looks or anything like that? Can you set aside your ego and say, I don't want to do the fun thing. I want to, focus on my studies and things of that nature. This is a discussion I have with my husband regularly, actually. And that is, the fact of the matter, if you want to get through your studies, if you want to transcend and ascend, then you'll do the work. But that's a matter of belief. And, people can try to motivate you and people can say all kinds of things to you. But it's up to you to not give up. It's up to you to overcome and do the right things. I have another text that I want to look at too, as well. And it's from Meister Eckhart, his Book of the Heart. This is a nice book of meditative Let me make sure I'm getting that on the screen. Yeah. This is a really nice book of meditative poems that the theologian Meister Eckhart had written. And they're really amazing, to be honest. And the poem I'm about to show you really touches on what I'm talking about here, especially in the way of money. You know, there's a verse in the Bible where, you know, Jesus says that we cannot work for two masters. You know? And I believe this is in the book of Matthew, but I'm not quite sure. So, don't quote me on that. But I believe so in the book of Matthew, Jesus says that one cannot have two masters. One has to either follow the Christ or follow Mammon. Right? And so that can make life harder as well. Especially nowadays, whenever the governments of the world have really, focused on ideas of, licensing and taxation and things of that nature, which make it harder to, form churches, fund churches, and things of that nature. And that's why, churches and orders and stuff are a community thing. And that's why I always ask y'all again, to help with these type of things, because the fact of the matter is these things cannot happen without y'all, But with that said, let's look at Meister Eckhart's words on this matter, and I'll read the poem. And I won't turn the camera around again, because it's it's getting kind of overdone, you know what I mean? I hate it, to be honest. But it says, and it's called The Man with Money. And it says, there was once a man who had $100. He lost 40, but still he had 60. I tried to comfort him, saying, you have $60, my friend. But all he could do was gaze upon his suffering. Lovers, they would sit and stare into each other's eyes, clinging. So this really touches on the idea I was talking about, what Jesus said. One cannot have two masters. You either focus on the money or you focus on, Christ. And of course, people are called to do different things. I'm not denying that. And that's the reason why you have people like me, people who create churches, people who create orders and things of that nature, because we help y'all do the hard work. We provide a service in a way. But instead of us asking for money for ourselves, we only ask for money for the church, for the order, so that we can continue to do our work. Again, this is one of those things we just can't do without y'all. But here, Meister Eckhart really, gets to the heart of the matter. He says if it were two lovers, they would be staring into each other's eyes longingly. Well, that is much like the man with the money. He is looking at his money, and he's saying, oh, some of it has been separated from me. And, he's put all his trust and his love into the money. Therefore, he is a man of money. He is not a man of Christ. He's not a man of this or that. And of course, like I said, many are called to do many different things. But in our tradition, the reason why we have priests, the reason why we have churches, the reason why we have orders, is so that people don't have to be men of money. They can be people of Christ who have money. That's the difference. And so with that said, really, it's all about the framing of the mind and how one transcends and overcomes. I have my limitations. I have, my job, and I make money. But But that's not my focus in life. And that's something that I only do part-time. I make not very much. But I don't wrap my whole world around that, to the worldly attainment of money. I try to make it to where other people can experience what I experience while they still live a life and have families and things of that nature. And so, this is what I mean by transcendence. Finding different ways to transcend. How do you transcend? Think on that. And let that be a meditation for you. How do I transcend my limitations? With that said, brothers and sisters of the light, if you like this channel, please like, subscribe. I'm going to try to write a description in there with my link tree. There you can find merch and things of that nature, even the book that I wrote. Yeah, please donate at Buy Me a Coffee so I can make better videos again. I actually was working on this amazing video on Mary Magdalene and pretty much proving the fact that, Jesus was married and things of that nature through Christian texts beyond the Bible. Through things like ecumenical councils, canons, what else? Things that, church fathers had wrote. And I like to use those proofs because I want to show Christians as well that their tradition believes in these things too, but kind of hides them, But with that said, brothers and sisters, always remember the light. For when it is time, the light will remember you.